What's up, everybody? It's me, Stevie, Sip Small Cheap Roof, Sip Small Grey Roof, and today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing Resident Evil Requiem for the Sony PlayStation 5. So let's get into this. And the first thing I want to talk about are the characters. The characters were interesting and wonderful. Now, the first character I want to talk about is Grace. She was a scared and frightened girl who tends to cry and stutter, but behind that afraid personality, she still fought on and won. I enjoy Grace, she's a wonderful newcomer. Next is Leon. He was a cool and amazing guy like always. I love Leon, he's my favorite male protagonist of Resident Evil, and his funny and serious and joking one-liners is always great to see. And both Grace and Leon provide different gameplay mechanics. Like, for example, Grace is more of like a stealth-based gameplay feel, while Leon is more of like that Resident Evil 4 action-based combat. So it's really great to have to switch between them and, get to play like that. Next is Victor Gideon. He was an interesting and weird villain, and I enjoyed his fight later on. It was fun. He was a great and weird, crazy villain, keeping the game interesting and chaotic. And when it came to, his moments, it was great, seeing him on, And I feel like when it comes down to it, villain-wise, there was a few that come to mind. I think, he was my favorite one. Yeah. Next is Emily. She was a little girl that Grace comes upon, and she had an interesting story herself. And I liked that, Emily and Grace has this mother and daughter relationship going on. It was really cool and great. Next is, he was an interesting and serious villain and reminded me of Albert Wesker. But he does have his own style and uniqueness stuff standing out, giving him his own spotlight, not just a copy. I also enjoyed his final fight as well. It was great. The other characters were also interesting, and I enjoyed fights and the bosses that the game provides. Next, the music. The music was wonderful and it fit perfectly. I loved the main theme song. It was interesting and mysterious, keeping the game wonderful. The combat music was exciting and adding to the already fun gameplay. Leon and the combat music, and it was great, Those were like perfect fit. And Grace as well, great. Next is the story. The story is about Grace, a FBI agent in search of information linked to the murder of her mother at the Wynwood Hotel. While Leon is on his mission trying to track down a new virus that has come upon Raccoon City and its survivals. I enjoyed the two protagonist stories, That's one thing I always loved about Resident Evil, and Leon and Grace both have wonderful stories. So, then one thing I want to say is that I really love the different gameplay styles, between Leon and Grace. To get more into more information is, I feel like when it came down to it, when they came to, say, fight the common villains, it was cool and interesting, Leon with his little combo sets and moves, and then Grace having to, stealth. She could also stealth kill, she's mostly, I feel like when it comes down to it, I feel like Leon, man, that action gameplay, Capcom just does it perfectly, and I always get excited whenever they, bring it up. I think when it comes down to it, also, the weapon system, when they upgrade the guns and stuff, I enjoy that, we get to get detailed by like specific like extensions to the guns and stuff, I enjoyed that, it was really great, accessories and stuff. And, I want to say also, Resident Evil Requiem, I would say it also has many things for classic fans as well, thinking about it as well. I remember there was like moments, not trying to spoil stuff into detail, but let me just say there are moments and throwbacks to specific class, the older games and stuff that I was like, yo, man, this is great, see these specific moments. Like, again, I'm not going to get into detail to not spoil anything, but I just wanted to say, there are moments where I was like, yo, man, Capcom is great, the throwbacks, the classic scenes, different things, it was really cool and fun. One thing that I want to talk about, and this is the last thing, is the yellow tape thing issue with Resident Evil. And, long story short, if you did not know, Capcom is bummy. I would say that, it's kind of lazy, like, so long story short, there are 3 modes. There are easy mode, normal mode, and then the hard mode. And I think there's a devil or extreme mode after that. So 4 modes, something like that. So long story short, me, I like to play my video games in normal mode because that's the normal mode. You know what? The developers intended you to play. That's why it's like normal mode. Now the easy mode is easy mode, baby mode, whatever. Why is the normal mode having this yellow tape issues? That should be like an easy mode. If people aren't capable of knowing what to do, then put the easy mode. You know what I mean? But I don't know, it's just weird to have that in normal mode. I like to play the game and think, have fun. But I don't know, that's just one thing that I just felt weird about and talking about, But besides all that, I still love this game, don't get me wrong. Now, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I recommend Resident Evil Requiem if you're looking for a wonderful video game to play. So far, as of March 2026, it's my favorite game. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye. Now I'm going to be talking about the spoiler section. So, I'm going to be talking about spoilers. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Now, I'm happy Grace and Leon saved Emily. It was wonderful. Emily lives with Grace, and in a way, Leon, Emily, and Grace, they have like this family feel to them. So towards the end, it was like a wonderful end. I enjoyed that, and also like they give like this what was it? Hope that like there was this cutscene right in the end where she might be alive. What was her name? Damn, I forget about names. Damn it, but. Yeah, man, there was just a lot of wonderful stuff towards the end, man. And it could build as a sequel. Like, think about it, right? I was thinking about this while working on the thumbnail and the review and all that, right? And I was like, imagine, because, usually they take turns, these, protagonists, so Leon, Grace, and maybe next is going to be like a Claire or maybe a Chris story or a new protagonist, for Resident Evil 10. But as of Resident Evil 9 Requiem, I'm interested. Are they going to bring Grace back? Because there's stuff that could still be worked here. You know what I mean? They did leave us in a little cliffhanger towards the end. Like, something might happen. Something might go on next time, when we see these characters again. So I'm very interested in that. So yeah, maybe this is my prediction. Maybe later on, we're going to see, Leon, Grace, maybe 10 years later or something like that. And then, we're going to see, Emily, maybe she's grown up. Leon and Grace has trained Emily. And then, Grace is more, capable of doing her job or fighting or being on Leon's level or somewhere around there. And then we're going to see all three of them go back and, it's just made me think. And I love that when games make you think, it's just like really great and fun to speculate and see what might go on in the story later on. So that's one thing that I wanted to share. Leave in the comments, what do you think might go on next time we see these characters? Or if they ever going to, because I think, I'm like, there's a few times where I was like, Capcom could do a lot more with them, and then they never do, So yeah, with that being that, let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye.